All right, that looks a little bit better. All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Sports Nerds. I'm Dawson Livingston, joined by Braden Bankin. Braden, how are we feeling? We're getting really close to the holiday season. Christmas is a week away as we're recording, but how are you feeling?
I'm feeling better than I was last week. I was sick. I've been sick since about Thanksgiving, so that's why I wasn't on last week. But I'm better. Still not 100%. So if I sound like I'm about to die and I'm coughing a lot, that's why. So apologies ahead of time. But otherwise, yeah, man, it's been watching a lot of ball, and I'm ready to talk about it.
Yes, Braden. One of the first things he said to me when we last spoke was about our episode last week with just me and Brock that we missed a few things, and that Braden would like he missed not being on the episode last week was the message of the story. But yeah, week 15 is now in the books. It is crazy to say that out loud, but we only have 3 weeks left of the NFL regular season. The season's flown by. I don't know if you felt the same way, but it feels weird to me. It feels like we shouldn't be this late in the season, but we are. Um, yeah, let's jump right into recapping week 15. Started off with a Thursday night game. I know Braden doesn't really want to talk about this one, but we will for just a little bit. Uh, Rams beat the Niners 12-6. Another no touchdown game. Yeah, kind of an ugly game from start to finish. No, I mean I know the Rams won, but the Rams didn't play a great game either. Yeah, no touchdown scored. Puka Nakua had 7 receptions for 97 yards, so he played well. But if any of you started Cooper Cup in fantasy, I am sorry. Cooper Cup with the triple zeros across the board. 0 receptions, 0 touchdowns, 0 yards. Uh, Braden, since you're our honorary Niners fan of this channel and this podcast, what were your thoughts on this past Thursday game, and do you think the Niners season is over?
Yeah, I mean it's what what can you even say at this point, man? Debo Samuel, after last game, goes on Twitter and says, "I'm good. I just need more targets," and then proceeds to have two of the most comical drops I think he's had in his entire career. I mean, he's never been like he's never had like the most secure hands, but good lord, man. And then what he had like 3 carries for 2 yards too. Like even when he got the ball, he didn't do anything with it. It's like
Two carries for 3 yards.
it
Flip flopped them.
it's okay. I got the numbers right. Just flip them around. Point
Right.
remains terrible, terrible. I mean, he's not the only reason why we lost. Obviously, I think Jawan Jennings had like 9 targets on 2 catches as well.
Yep.
Like offensive line was destroying Brock Purdy all day. Well, they weren't destroying him, but they pretty much were because they weren't blocking anybody. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. The season's over. You're not gonna get like a top 10 pick because there's so many like 5-win teams right now. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you do. Brock Purdy's gonna get paid by somebody next offseason. I don't know who it's gonna be. I hope it's the Niners. As a Niners fan, I want to see the best players on my team, but I don't know if he's. I don't know if the Niners are gonna pay him that kind of. I don't know if they can pay him that kind of money, but as I hope he gets it. But as an Iowa State fan, but as a Niners fan, I want him on my team. But yeah, I'm not even going to talk about the Devondre Campbell stuff as well. We
We won't
probably
touch
will
that.
later, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's you know what happened. I'm
Right.
not and I'm not in a position to really dive too far into that because
Yeah.
that's a whole that whole thing is far beyond my level of knowledge.
Yeah.
But man, the team is dead. Whether they are or not statistically, they're done. It's over. Wrap it up.
Statistically, there is a 1% chance that they can sneak in the playoffs. So, like, they're about as close to being mathematically eliminated as you can be.
Yeah,
They have
that's
the
like
same
having a
odds.
1% chance to win in fantasy when you have like the backup running back and you're down 50.
Yeah.
Like
Like, they're
it's not looking good.
no, it's not. Same odds as the 6-8 Cowboys, and even I guess because the NFC South is so bad that this team still has a chance to make it, but the Saints still have a 1% chance, which I find funny. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know
Oh
how they would
Lord.
sneak in, but yeah, I mean, I want to keep talking on the Niners. There's going to be some culture changes and some moves that's made this offseason. There's the rumors that Debo could be gone after this year. Obviously, he's been frustrated with the offense. And now with the Brandon Ayuk contract coming into full swing, like you're going to have to pay one of your guys. You can't pay both in the salary cap era. So, as a Niners fan, do you think it's going to be kind of a mini rebuild, or do you think it's just going to be all ships to sail? Like everything's going to be fine?
I mean, we've proven time and time again that we can't win the big one with this core. I mean, there's not really much of a point to retool. Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like you kind of have to just restart. But then again, we did that in, what was it, 2015, where we lost, like, everybody under the sun. And then we're back to, like, relevancy in, like, 2019, 2020. So, I mean, we've done it before, and we made it back, but we didn't quite. I think we did it too fast. We need a good. I hate to say this because no fan wants their team to lose, obviously, but we need to start it over. It's not working. It's just not. Kyle Shanahan, great coach, can't win the big one. Uh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, we have to restart. I think there's no there's no way we can dig ourselves out of this hole without fully blowing it up. I don't think.
No, I agree. Just looking at kind of the San Francisco cap numbers for next year, you have Fred Warner on the books for almost just over 29 million. Kittle's on the books for 22. Trent Williams, who's going to be 37 next year, is going to be on the books for 21 million. Bosa's going to be on the books for 20. Debo 15. Javarius Ward, who I believe is a free agent. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think his deal is up after this year. He's still going to be on the
I
books for
believe
12
so.
million.
Yeah.
Ayuk's on the book for like it's not like they're in cap like hell, but they're gonna have some tough decisions that they're gonna have to make this offseason. And if I'm a Niners fan, as long as you keep Purdy as your quarterback, I I think Ayuk can bounce back. I know that when he was played this year, he didn't look too good, but I would keep Ayuk because I think he's shown flashes in the last few years that he can be a true number one. Obviously McCaffrey and Bosa and Warner, but outside of that, I think anyone on that team, even my boy George Kittle, who I love, but Kittle's getting up there in age. He's almost 32. I think anyone, no one's safe on the rest of that roster, if that makes sense. Um,
Mm.
yeah. You got any thoughts on that, or you got any other players that you would like to keep, but or in some players that you're
Um.
willing to deal?
Yeah, I think I players I'd like to see stay on the team. I would like to see Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is with Purdy, a lot of people think we need a better quarterback than Purdy. You're not. There's like 6 or 7 quarterbacks. I
You
could
already hit, in my
give
eyes,
you
you already
over
hit the
Purdy.
jackpot with nailing that Purdy pick and the Mr. Relevant pick. You're not going to do much better than that. You're not going to trade for a better quarterback. You're not going to draft a better quarterback than what you have.
That's
Because like,
exactly. You've already put your tokens into the slot machine, and you already hit the mid prize. It, you're not gonna hit
it's a
the
good way to
grand
put it.
jackpot. You're
Yeah,
not getting a Mahomes,
yeah,
and that's
that's a
that's
good
what they
way to-
want. They want a Mahomes, and they're not gonna get it. So I think you it sucks to pay Purdy 55, 60 million, because do do you think like watching him play like how much of that is his surrounding, how much of that is him as a player? But I don't think that is a risk you don't want to see your guy leave your building for free, go
Mhm.
get that 55, 60 million you didn't want to pay him, and then ball just as hard, if not harder, than when he was in your building. So I feel you got to pay him. You got to pay Purdy. Ayuk, like you said, I think is our best receiver right now, and I don't know how how close it is. I mean, Jawan Jennings. Yep, that's a Ayuk and Jawan Jennings. I want to see stay on the team.
Yep.
I think that's about it on offense. Really, I mean, we got a couple of linemen.
I mean,
Dominic Pooney has been a really good, underrated guy. I'd like to see him stay on the team.
I
He's
mean,
still here for
obviously
another like
Trent,
3 years. So
but Trent's getting up in that age where it's like
Trent's
this get
36. He might just
it's
leave.
like this is unprecedented. Like the only super old O lineman I can think of is Andrew Whitworth, and that is the one-off exception. I think he played till he was 40 for the Rams. So you don't really see that happen with too many offensive linemen in the league. I mean, heck, you don't really see too many players other than quarterbacks reach that level of age at this point in the NFL. So obviously, if Trent's willing to come back, I think you bring him back. But man, if you're the Niners, you got to start developing that plan, future like life after Trent Williams at the left tackle position.
Yeah, absolutely. You and we haven't. You can tell as soon as Trent Williams is off the field, our offensive line just can't do it. We need to have somebody else to be that stalwart. Like we had a Joe Staley for a while, then we replaced him perfectly with Trent Williams. We need to have that next heir apparent at left tackle. And right now, it's nobody in house. I can tell you that for sure. But I think that's about it. Offensively, defensively, I mean,
I think
both
there's really,
obviously you want to.
I think there's only two guys that you have to keep on defense, and everyone else you can figure out. Bosa and Warner, and I guess Greenlaw. So there's three. You keep those three, I think you can figure out the rest. And as good as I'm a homer for Travarius Ward, he really had a breakout years last year in Kansas City, showed he can really play at the next level. But I think corners are an easy position to replace in the NFL, if that makes sense. Like there's so many good corners coming in, there's so many good wide receivers. So I think you could afford to let Ward walk. Plus he could be commanding a deal upwards of 18, 19, 20 million. So
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Those were going to be my three that I was going to say as well was Bosa, Warner, and Greenlaw. But yeah, I think you keep those five or keep those six, and then anything else is hey, we'll take as many picks as you'll give us for it, and you start from scratch, and you hope for the best, I guess. That's I think what you have to do for the Niners.
yeah, and it'll be interesting to see when we get to the offseason, when we know what teams' draft picks are, where teams sit like financially, because it's tough to gauge right now because certain bonuses haven't kicked in and players haven't been cut yet. So we'll see where teams are at financially a couple months from now. But yeah, it's probably gonna be the talking point of the offseason, I would say, is what San Francisco is gonna do with that roster because they've been to what 2 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. They've been to a couple NFC title games and fell short. So this roster has the talent. It's just whether or not they're reaching that age where they need to make some big changes. Moving on, some of the other games I wanted to highlight. We'll just get right into the big one that happened on Sunday. The Detroit and Buffalo game. Buffalo wins this game 48-42. I mean, if you guys didn't watch this game, you really missed out. This was a high-scoring shootout the entire time. Josh Allen had another superhero performance. I believe 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, 362 yards, even had another 68 on the ground. And you would think that the Lions would just be running the ball over the Buffalo defense. Not this case. Jared Goff threw for almost 500 yards, threw the ball 60 times, or close to. But I think the big news of this game is the injuries that are piling up on the Detroit team. We've already seen that Montgomery is ruled out indefinitely. I don't know if it's like he can't come back playoffs, but he's out at least the next 3 or 4 weeks. So that's a given.
He's out for the season. I think
is he?
I think he's out. I think he's done. It was like a torn MCL. He's done.
Yeah. I know they had a couple other injuries that took place on this Sunday. Carlton Davis, one of their corners, I think, is out for the year. Aleem McNeil, who's one of their standout defensive tackles, is out for the year. At some point, these injuries are going to start to matter. And I think the Montgomery one might be what pushes it over because, I mean, we know the nicknames of Gibbs and Montgomery. It's Sonic and Knuckles. But now that you don't have Knuckles, how good is Sonic really going to be? To Gibbs' credit, he did have 2 touchdowns, but he only had 31 yards on the ground. He had 1 rushing touchdown, 1 receiving touchdown, added 83 yards to the air. So he's like, we know he's a weapon in the passing game. Like, this is something we knew when he was coming out of college. But how effective do you think Gibbs is going to be, and this Lions offense as a whole is going to be without Montgomery?
Yeah, it's going to be rough, man. Montgomery was having arguably the best season of his career so far, and they rallied around him a lot. It was whenever Gibbs wasn't having the greatest day, you can give it to Montgomery, get 4 or 5 yards every time, and then some, and he can get you about 100. So to not have that, to not have the best running back duo in the league, have it just be Jahmyr Gibbs, they'll be okay, but it's gonna look off because I think they're gonna start leaning a lot more on the pass game. Which I mean, that Jared Goff almost threw for 500 yards, like he said, so it's not gonna kill him, but I think they're gonna look a lot more one-dimensional than they have been all year, and I think that's gonna really, really come to hurt them come playoff time, especially with them losing as many defensive players as they have. Yeah, it's going to be rough to see how many playoff games the Lions can win, but they're going to really be wishing they had Montgomery, for sure.
Well, now, what I think I really want to talk about with the Lions is they don't control their own destiny now for the 1 seed. Like, they do in a sense, but so does Minnesota, because they have that head-to-head game. Is it week 18 that they're playing each other? Yeah, it's a last week of the year. It could be for the number 1 seed if both teams win out. Like, I'm not going to slight Jared Goff when I say this, but I am going to a little bit. I know he threw for 500 yards on Sunday. Kudos to him. I couldn't throw for 500 yards if he gave me 17 games. I will say, I think it's going to be a challenge for him if the Lions have to go on the road at any point in the playoffs. And I know if they get the 2 seed or the 3 seed, they probably won't have to go like super far. But let's play a doomsday scenario. Let's say Lions get the 3 seed, Eagles get the 3 seed, and it's 2-3 in the divisional round, and the Lions have to go to Philadelphia. Are we really trusting Jared Goff in January on the road in what could be cold weather to really deliver the Lions a win? Because I know the game last year against the Niners, I mean, San Francisco's nice all year round. So, like, weather's never going to play a huge factor in that. But I think that the Lions going on the road are a totally different team than the Lions playing at home in a dome where they know the atmosphere. They know there's no weather whatsoever. So I think that's going to be super interesting to watch with the playoff seeding and whether or not Detroit has to go on the road or not. For Buffalo's sake, another week they scored over 40 points, but another week their defense has given up over 40 points. Are you concerned at all with this Buffalo defense, or do you think Josh Allen's just going to keep being Superman and he's going to bail him out of this?
I mean, both, really. Josh Allen is the MVP. He looks like the best player in the league right now.
He does.
It's incredible the things that he's doing right now. But at the same time, I think the Buffalo defense. I think the Buffalo defense has just gotten 2 really bad breaks with the Rams having as much to prove as they did and the Lions. Those are 2 like pretty dang good offenses. I mean,
right.
Should you be giving up 40 points back-to-back weeks? No. I mean, you could play anybody back-to-back weeks. You should not be giving up 40 points. You should not be giving up more than 80 points in 2 weeks. But I think they just got 2 bad breaks with how elite the offenses have been playing. I think there is some concern that I think the Bills' defense definitely should be better. And if I'm that coaching staff, I'm grilling that defense to try to put in some more effort, try to get some stops. Because good lord, Josh Allen is Superman, but he can't he can't score every drive, every play,
Right.
every game. So yeah, if they can get a couple stops, 2, 3, 4 stops a game, I think they'll be in good hands. I would not be surprised if they are in the Super Bowl for sure, but you got to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
we'll see if they can do that.
Well, the thing that the Bills have going for them is their last 3 weeks, I don't want to say are cupcake games, but they're about as close to cupcake games as you could get. They play the Patriots at home, the Jets at home, the Patriots on the road. Or is their last 3 games.
3 cupcake games.
Yeah. So assume they go 3-0.
Let's call a spade a spade. They're cupcakes.
Yeah. Assuming they go 3-0 in those games, they'll end the season 14-3. Now, we'll talk about Kansas City later in this episode and what's going on with them, with the Mahomes injury and whether or not they should play him or not. But obviously, if Buffalo does their job and they run the table, they're nipping at the heels of Kansas City for that number 1 seed, which can be super valuable. But we've also seen, me and Brock were talking about it last week on the episode. The AFC, it feels like any team can win on the road. It feels like on the NFC, it feels like no team can win on the road, if that makes sense. So I don't feel like number 1 seed in the AFC is super important compared to like if Minnesota gets the number 1 seed, I think I'll have a lot more faith in Minnesota making a deep playoff run, maybe to the NFC title game. I don't know if I'll go to the Super Bowl. I don't know if I'll go that far. But whereas the AFC, the Ravens could end up being the 4 seed or even the 5 seed, and they could still by far and away go to the Super Bowl. Moving on though, I do want to talk about the Chiefs for just a little bit. They beat the Browns 21-7. But that's not really the huge storyline of this game. The big storyline of this game was Mahomes going down in the fourth quarter with a high ankle sprain. It made it sound like as soon as the game was over, that it was going to be a no big deal. Then I saw reports, I think it was Ian Rappaport, this is the injury is going to be week to week. Now Mahomes has practiced 2 days in a row, full participant. Do you think the Chiefs should risk starting him in this Saturday's game against the Texans? Or do you think they park him and then get him ready to go for that next Wednesday game? Because they have this stretch where they played on Sunday, but they have 3 games in 11 days. Do you think they should rest him on Saturday and play him on Wednesday, or do you think just let him go?
I think you got to park him for a week. I mean, you're 12-1. You kind of control your own destiny with that 1 seed right now. As you said, the 1 seed in the AFC doesn't matter nearly as much as the 1 seed in the NFC does. But
still matters because it's an extra week of rest.
At the end of the day,
right?
You'd rather have that week of rest than not have it.
Mm-hmm.
But would you rather have a week of rest in the playoffs, or would you rather run the risk of not having Patrick Mahomes for the playoffs?
Right.
I think you have to sit him, especially since I would rather have all hands on deck for the Steelers than I would for the Texans with how those 2 teams are playing this year. Yeah, that's what I think. I think you got to sit him, make sure he's 100% ready to go for the playoffs.
I think so too, but the way that the line has been moving makes it seem like Mahomes is playing, which I don't know if is necessarily the smartest move, because I don't know if many people know, or I guess if you watch the Chiefs game on Sunday, you know. Chiefs backup quarterback is Carson Wentz, who I know it was a long time ago, but was in the MVP race. I would argue he's one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. I think if they started Wentz and they won on Saturday, I think you start Wentz again on that Wednesday. Because then you really don't even need to push Mahomes because, okay, you have this 1 seed on lock. You don't have to worry about it. And you can still sit Mahomes. You can make Mahomes 100% healthy going into the playoffs. Maybe play him a little in that Week 18 game against Denver. But I think giving him rest and letting that ankle heal. Granted, we've seen Mahomes play through a high ankle sprain in the playoffs. He ended up winning the Super Bowl the year that he did it. So it's not unprecedented for him to play through an injury. I just think if you're the Chiefs, I don't know why you would put yourself through that risk if you still got 3 weeks left in the regular season and potentially 3 to 4 more weeks left in the playoffs. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Those were kind of the bigger games or bigger storylines for this past week. Do you got anything else to add that we should talk about
Um,
regarding the week
not
15?
not really. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, no, I think we kind of covered the main things.
All right.
Eagles look pretty good against the Steelers. That was
Yeah,
a pretty good game.
that was a pretty good game. I don't disagree with that. Uh, I still get bad vibes from Philly. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I don't like what's going on in Philly. I know they're 12-2, but ooh,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think they are probably still a top five team in the league. We'll get to that,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's. I mean, when your own coach is chirping at his fans earlier in the year, you don't get to just like pretend like that didn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. So yeah,
Right.
well, we'll see. We'll see if bygones were bygones and it ends up working out just fine, or if the skeletons break their way out of that closet.
Yeah, and might as well just get right into it. Our power rankings for this week in the NFL, getting ready for week 16. Braden, you want to start us off with your power rankings?
Yeah, I'd love to. So number one, new number one team for I think the first time since the Bills beat the Chiefs. I have the Buffalo Bills as the number one team. You beat the number one team, you get to be the number one team. And I mean, you look at like possible quality wins. I think the Bills have the two best quality wins you can have, beating the Chiefs and beating the Lions. That's about as good as it gets. Josh Allen looks like all of the Justice League combined in the one man. He, yeah, he's really good at football. If you haven't noticed by now. Number two, I have the Chiefs. I was dangerously close to putting the Chiefs back at number one, but then I realized I didn't really want to do that, so I didn't.
Fair enough.
That's a. I think everything that needs to be said about the Chiefs has been said at this point. May God help us all. Number three, I have the Eagles. Again, like we were saying, I don't have great vibes right now about the Eagles, but they look real good. Saquon Barkley last week became the all-time leading, well, not all-time, but yes,
Single season rushing record for the Eagles.
Single season rushing record, breaking Shady McCoy's record there. Congrats to him. Yeah, they look really good. We'll see what's going on about that whole AJ Brown saying that the passing game is weak and he needs the ball more. We'll see what comes out of that, but I still think they're really good. Number four, I have the Lions. Injuries, man. It's a fact of the game, but man, they suck. We'll see how bad that's going to hurt them come playoff time. But I can't knock them. I can't knock them all the way out of the top five for losing to the best team in the league until I see that the injuries have entirely decimated them. And then number five, I think one through four they're interchangeable, but I think that's the top four. It has been all year, and it's remained that way. Will probably be that way through the rest of the season. Number five, I have Minnesota. I think I mentioned this when I put them on my top five earlier in the year. If you were to tell me at the beginning of the season that Sam Darnold would be leading one of the top five teams in the league, I would call you insane. But he is. Would have thought for sure he would have pumpkined by now. There was a little glimmer there in the middle where I thought maybe we're about to see pumpkin Darnold, but we did not. So shout out to him. Shout out Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson being probably top 15, top 20 receivers in the league. Yeah, that's about it right there. NFC North looks really good this year, other than the Bears, which I mean, of freaking course it is.
Gosh. Dude, oh my gosh, you're right, and that just makes me laugh. Just because I was super high on the Bears before the year. I thought Bears were definitely making playoffs, and I didn't anticipate them losing 9 in a row or 8 in a row. So That one's on me. I won't be bullish on a rookie quarterback that much ever again. Yeah,
I mean,
another good.
Bo Nix looks pretty good though. So I
Yeah,
mean, it's not necessarily rookie quarterback guys.
but
But
I guess what I'm saying is I was super, super high on Caleb. Like, I thought for sure the Bears were going 11-6, making the playoffs, and could potentially win a game in the playoffs. Whereas Bo, I didn't think he was going to be bad. I just didn't expect him to be this good. My expectations for Bo were a lot lower, so thus he's exceeded those. Where mine for Caleb have been up here, and the Bears have played like this. So, but yeah, Braden with another great list, another great power rankings for Week 16. I'll start it off. I'm going to show bias. I don't care at this point. I wanted to put this team back at number one, but everyone's been yelling at me. You can't win one-score games and be number one. They finally win by more than one score. They can be number one. Kansas City is back at number one of the power rankings, where they should be. The two-time defending Super Bowl champs.
boom,
What was that, a boo?
it sure was.
I love to hear it. Yeah, Kansas City's got, again, they have the game on Saturday against Houston. They have a game on next Wednesday on Christmas Day on Netflix, which hopefully, side note, if the streaming is as bad on Netflix as it was for the Logan Paul or Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight,
Oh boy,
I will be irate. I will be extremely
Netflix
upset.
might go bankrupt.
Right, yeah.
they, oh,
So yeah, Kansas City gets to be at number one. Number two, Buffalo's got to be number two. And I know head to head, I know Buffalo beat Kansas City, and I'm not arguing that they didn't. But I will say, Buffalo's defense scares me a heck of a lot more than Kansas City's defense. I know Allen's been playing better than Mahomes this year. You could argue that Allen's been the best player this year. I won't disagree with that. But I don't know if I can trust that defense. And I know they've played two high potent offenses the last 2 weeks, so I'll cut them a little slack. But that defense is still a huge concern for me in the next few weeks. Number three, I'm going to have Detroit. I'm not going to harp on them too much, but I am getting super nervous for their defense. The injuries are piling up, man, and it sucks because, like, I feel like I'm not even a Detroit fan. You're not a Detroit fan, but we're all kind of rooting for Detroit because they've been bad for so long that
yeah.
it's time for them to have a little glimmer of success. So if they can find a way to fix that defense, and if Montgomery being out isn't like that detrimental, I still think they can win the Super Bowl. They still have a talented enough offense. So we will see about that. Number four, I'm gonna have Philly. Philly would be higher. I know they're on the biggest winning streak in the NFL, 10 games in a row. Again, for me, I'm a vibes guy. I don't really like what's going on in Philly. I don't like A.J. Brown chirping at Jalen Hurts. I don't like Sirianni yelling at his own fans. I know that they're 12-2, but it doesn't feel like they're 12-2. They had another good week against the Steelers. They beat them 27-13. I think Philly has they have the potential to go anywhere in the NFC and win. But for me, I'm super nervous of what's going to happen with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. I don't know if that's resolved or what's going on, but you can't have a divided locker room and a huge playoff push. And then number five, I honestly flip-flopped between these two teams for a good 10 minutes this morning trying to think of my power rankings. But in the end, I'm going to have Minnesota at 5, even though I really wanted to put Green Bay at 5. I was this close to putting the Packers up there, but I'll give the edge to Minnesota right now. Like you said, Addison and Jefferson have been probably the best duo all year. I know you can argue Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but Higgins has been missing some time. It really, since the last few weeks, they have been balling out as a wide receiver duo. Sam Darnold has just played himself into a $250 million plus contract this offseason, I'm sure. Whether that's with the Vikings, whether it's with another team, I don't know. But he has certainly played like a top 10 quarterback in the league, which me and you did not see coming before the season. But yeah, again, I really wanted to put Green Bay in my top 5 because I really like what Green Bay's got going on. And they are my preseason Super Bowl pick out of the NFC. But I'm not I'm not quite sold yet on Green Bay. I still think they've got some weaknesses. But yeah, that is my top 5. I got Kansas City 1, Buffalo 2, Detroit 3, Philly 4, and Minnesota 5. Wow. It is crazy to me that, again, I've said this a couple times, but that we are talking about week 16. Like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but
Yeah,
it's wild to me.
yeah, man. Time flies. Like I've been saying all year, you gotta enjoy this while you got it, because it doesn't last
Right.
long, and the time you don't got it, it's gonna feel like forever.
Totally agree. I really quick want to talk about the Falcons situation, and then we can preview into the next week's games and how Saturday is the greatest day for football ever? Question mark. Um,
Yep.
but um, the big news that came out was that last night, Michael Penix will be starting for the Atlanta Falcons over Kirk Cousins. It was only 13 games into the season, and Kirk Cousins finally got benched. I know Falcons fans have been wanting this the last few weeks, but I know we don't really talk about Atlanta either that often. But do you think Penix is going to succeed? Do you think he's going to do well with the Falcons? Is my first question.
I mean, I that's a good offense. I mean, you got weapons. You got Bijan. You got Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts. If he can ever remember how to be a tight
Yeah.
end again. I mean, offensive line isn't like terrible. Defense is a whole other ball game, but the offense is good. Uh, yeah, I mean, all signs point to putting Penix in the best situation that you really can. But yeah, I mean, he looked good in college. I think he could definitely can be good. This is about as good of a situation as he's gonna get to prove that he can be. I definitely just did a whole lot of lapping to not answer your question, but I think he can be for sure.
And then I guess my second question is, where do the Falcons go from here with Kirk Cousins? Because they still owe that man a lot of money. And if let's say Penix balls out, do you just cut Kirk and eat the money because you know you have a rookie quarterback? Like, he's gonna be cheap in the next few years, or do you try to trade him? I guess I have no idea what Atlanta should do with Kirk Cousins, but what do you think? What do you think should happen with Kirk?
I mean, yeah, if Penix ends up balling out, you can't keep him. I don't know what you can do. I don't know what kind of out there is for that contract. I don't know what kind of trade suitor you'd be able to find for him. I doubt it'd be much with that big of a contract for somebody that really, other than like 2 games against Tampa Bay, has not been good this year. It's, I, yeah, I, you got to get rid of him somehow. I don't know how, but you got to find a way because you can't pay a backup quarterback as much money as he's making. You just can't.
Right, and I looked up like what his contract looks like. So he's got a $25 million cap hit this year, which is manageable. Next year it's 40 million bucks, and there's a potential out after that second year of the contract, but the Falcons would still eat about 35 million in dead cap. So that's still a lot of money that you have to that's just gone. He also has a no trade clause, which I didn't realize. So shout out to Kirk for being a crazy businessman. Maybe he knew
Batman
that,
Kirko, I tell you what.
dude. For as many playoff games as that man has won and the amount of money he has gotten, oh man, he is a genius when it comes to signing his deals. But yeah, it's crazy. And I guess if you're Atlanta, there's this other side of the coin. What if Penix is bad? Like, what if Penix is like not ready to play, like clearly not ready? Like, do you throw Kirk back in there? Because if you're Atlanta, you're in the playoffs, kind of. You have 2 head-to-head wins over Tampa. So if you have the same record, you'll get that 4 seed and you'll host a playoff game. But yeah, if Penix ends up playing bad, do you think they throw Cousins back in?
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, this is not at all the same situation, but like with Bryce Young in Carolina, where they benched him for 4 or 5 weeks just to get his rocks back in the bag, and then came out and was playing a lot better. You think maybe you can kind of have some sort of re-realization of having quarterback skills again with Kirk, but yeah, I mean, if he's not ready, you can't just force him out there,
Right.
especially with playoff implications. But yeah, I hope he's not bad, but yeah, I think if he is, they'll put Kirk back out there. I think so.
You know who I think the winner of this whole Kirk Cousins Penix thing? Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback whisperer. And I forget the stat. I saw it on Twitter. I should have saved it. But it was Kevin O'Connell's records with his current quarterbacks compared to those quarterbacks' records with other coaches. Kirk Cousins has like a 60% winning percentage. He's a 500 quarterback everywhere else. Josh Dobbs is 2-2 with the Vikings last year. He is 1-9 any other game he starts. And then Sam Darnold we all know the Sam Darnold stories. Like, we saw him in New York, we saw him in Carolina. We even saw him for a little bit in San Fran last year. He wasn't good. And then they're sitting at 12-2 competing for a number one seed. I think if you're talking about coach of the year, if Kevin O'Connell's not that first name that you think of, I don't know who should be.
I mean, I don't want to say you're wrong there, but like look at the other situations that those quarterbacks have had outside of Minnesota. You look at Josh Dobbs. What was he starting in, like Tennessee, Arizona?
Yeah.
Like those were terrible teams. And Sam Darnold, don't even get me started on the Jets. Good Lord. And I mean,
I think there's a little bit of both.
Okay, but yeah, I definitely. I'm not saying Kevin O'Connell has nothing to do with it, but let's not sit here and act like Kevin O'Connell's the only reason why they were able to win games. Like the quarterbacks have talent.
That's fair. I don't think it's the only reason why Minnesota's winning, but again, we saw. I'll bring up the Sam Darnold with the Niners. Like if you're gonna talk about weapons, the Niners have like last year anyway. I don't know, this year maybe not so much. Last year they had all their weapons pretty much healthy. They had McCaffrey, they had Debo, they had Ayuk, they have Kittle, all those guys, and for the little bit that he played, wasn't very good. I just think that for a guy that is leading a team to 12-2, I don't think we talk nearly enough about a guy like Kevin O'Connell. But moving on, the Thursday night game for this week, it's a good one. There's some playoff implications on the line with this one. Denver is on the road at the Chargers for what might honestly be a Denver home game, because we all know that Chargers never have enough of their own fans, but who knows? Maybe the Chargers, now that they're in kind of the playoff hunt, will finally show up and support their team. So that's one of the better games on Thursday. 2 games on Saturday. Is this not the best day ever for football enjoyers? You have 2 NFL games of 2 really good matchups, and you have the 3 playoff games, which, why am I blanking on the playoff matchups? Wow. Let me pull it up.
Are all of the first round playoff? Not all of them are going.
No, the Indiana Notre Dame one is on Friday night. It's SMU Penn State, Tennessee Ohio State, Clemson Texas.
Ooh, yeah, those are all heaters.
The Penn State SMU is at 11. The Houston Kansas City's at noon. Clemson Texas is at 3. Baltimore Pittsburgh's at 3:30. Tennessee Ohio State is at 7 o'clock. Like, you have 5 games that you honestly could pick your choice of who you want to watch, because they're probably all going to be good games, especially that Saturday night game. That Ohio State Tennessee game is going to be phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, if you got picture in picture, you better use it Saturday.
Dude, yeah. Please. And I don't know if you do it, but anytime I do the multi-view with YouTube TV, for me, it's just too much going on. I can do the side-by-side. I can't do the 4-screen, if that makes sense. I can't do it's just too much for me.
It depends. Like if there, it's usually it's like somewhat kind of staggered, so I can like just focus on one. But
Hmm.
yeah, if it's all four at the same time, I'm not watching all four. I'm picking
No,
one until it goes to commercial break, and I'm hopping to the other.
right. Um, but yeah, for any of you football fans, this Saturday, oh man, get ready. Find your spot on the couch, unless you have family Christmas or whatever you got going on for holidays. Find yourself on the couch and don't move for 8 hours, and you will have yourself a great time. Some other games, we talked about it earlier, but Penix is making his first start at home against the Giants. So for Penix, should be able to succeed right out of the gates because the Giants, we know they're on that competition for the number one pick. Looking at other matchups, Philadelphia at Washington is going to be a good one because Washington's still in the playoff hunt. Philly's vying for that number one seed in the NFC, so that'll be a good one. Um, Minnesota goes on the road to Seattle. Seattle's in that. I think they're number one in the NFC West, so it's another playoff matchup late in the season, which will be fun to watch. Um, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's
pretty
about
much
it.
it.
Unless you're a real tank bowl enjoyer, Jaguars
Yeah, I
Raiders.
was gonna say unless you're a fan of the Giants or Vegas, Jacksonville. Oh man, Jacksonville and Vegas play this week. It's the Travis Hunter Bowl. Winner gets Travis Hunter. Wow. Yeah, I didn't. I thought
Yeah.
there'd be better games. I don't know
No, I
why I
think
was thinking.
they put the two good ones on Saturday to compete with college. I think 'cause
Totally.
there is a whole lot of nothing going on
I see
Sunday.
the NFL's division, and we didn't really talk about obviously Kansas City, Houston, but Pittsburgh and Baltimore. We saw what happened when they matched up the first time this season. Pittsburgh came out with the dub. I'm pulling up the final score of that one. 18-16. I remember Lamar didn't have a great game. Russell Wilson didn't have a great game either. It was super defensive focused. Tucker missed a couple field goals. Um, but yeah,
I
where
mean, that's just
Baltimore
classic
sits,
AFC North football right there. No
yeah.
offense, all defense,
Well, unless you're
straight
Cincinnati,
physicality.
unless you're Cincinnati,
Yeah,
Cincinnati is about Cincinnati is what the old Big 12 used to be. Like
yes.
when you would see the bottom ticker on ESPN when you're watching the game, and it'd be like, wait, Oklahoma's beating a team 70-57. I remember watching some old Texas Tech. What are some other crazy high scoring teams? West Virginia, like when they had Austin and oh man. But yeah, that's kind of what I think of the Bengals. The Bengals don't play a lick of defense
Yeah, the Bengals are that one Rams Chiefs Thursday night football game, but
every
like for
week.
17 games.
Yeah. And I don't even know, is Cincinnati? I don't know if they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
I think they are still in it technically.
5%?
Better than the Niners. So, hey,
5%?
cheers.
See, the
Cheers to them.
AFC, when you look at the AFC, it's kind of like set in stone who the top seven are going to be. Now, the order can flip, but the top seven's pretty much going to be Kansas City, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston, Baltimore, Denver, and Los Angeles. Like, those are pretty much the bracket that you're going to get. Granted, Pittsburgh can move up to two. Like, there's a whole bunch that can happen seeding wise, but those are pretty much your seven. Whereas the NFC, your two teams are already clinched. You have the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Bucks are pretty much going to win their division. They have an 83% chance. It'd be really hard for them to lose it unless Atlanta comes out of nowhere and wins their last few. The Rams are, oh, I'm sorry, the Rams are leading their division. Sorry, not Seattle. So the Rams are about a 50-50 chance of making the playoffs. The Vikings have already clinched. The Packers are basically clinched. And then you have a team like the Commanders who are fairly confident they're going to win, but still could drop out. Teams that really have a chance are Seattle and Atlanta. I mean, it says Arizona has a 13% chance, but sorry, Brock. I don't think your Cardinals are going to make the playoffs. But yeah, dude, these next few weeks for playoff seeding is going to be super interesting because we had good playoff matchups last year in round one. I'm curious to see what the matchups are going to be for round two or for round one this year. So, dude, I'm so excited. Like these games, these next few weeks are going to be so much fun to watch. And if you're a college football fan, obviously the playoffs going to be this Friday and Saturday for the first round. Second round's going to be really good. You're going to have those four teams coming off a bye with Georgia, Texas, Georgia, Oregon, Boise, Arizona State. So it's probably the best time of year for sport. Second best time of the year for sports for me anyway, because you have playoffs coming around for NFL, NBA. I always love watching Christmas Day games. I don't know how you feel, but that's probably one of my favorite things to watch as a kid anyway. Now NBA, I don't know, the viewership's kind of tanked over the last few years, but yeah. Do you have anything else you really want to touch home on for this episode?
No, I think I think I said my piece at this point. Um, yeah, go watch some football because we don't got a whole lot of it left.
Nope. You are totally right. Bowl season is here. I think the first bowl game was played last night. Does that sound? Am I making that up?
Yeah, the Frisco Bowl, I think it was
It was
played.
West Virginia versus. I'm sorry, it was
Versus
the third
Memphis.
bowl game played. Um, Memphis and
Yeah,
West Virginia.
Memphis was last night, and Memphis
Yep.
won.
There's two tonight if you're interested. Western Kentucky and James Madison, which is currently going on as we're recording, and Cal versus UNLV at 9 o'clock. Which, funny enough,
That
is
should
in
be
SoFi. What?
that should be a good one. That UNLV Cal one should be good.
Yep. But no. Yeah, Iowa State's Pop-Tart Bowl. That's always a fun one. Did you see the trophy?
I did. That's so sick, man.
Like, the fact that it actually plugs in, and I don't know if it actually toasts, but the fact that it plugs in and you can pull the Pop-Tarts down like an actual toaster.
As far as I'm aware, it's a fully functional toaster in that bad
Dude,
boy.
that's awesome. I always love it when there's good themes with bowl games. Like the Cheez-It Bowl, I love the Cheez-It Bowl. When they had the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, I loved that. Why they took away the Outback Bowl is beyond me. As an Iowa fan, I've grown accustomed to seeing Iowa in the Outback Bowl every year. Where the old campaign was, if the Big Ten team wins, it's like all you can eat bloomin' onion the next day. And if the SEC team wins, I think I can't even remember what the
Was it
other
like
side
endless
is.
shrimp or something like that.
Yeah, bottomless shrimp. Like it's fun stuff like that keeps like fans like watching. What are some other good ones? I'm trying to think. Wow. There's a bowl game called the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl.
I think
That's
I've heard of that one. Doesn't
Miami of
Gronk
Ohio
have
versus
a bowl or something?
What?
Doesn't Gronk have a bowl game? I think
Let me see.
like the LA Bowl, the Rob Gronkowski LA Bowl. I think.
I think you're right.
I don't know who's playing.
I
it.
can't find it right now, but I would assume you're right. If that's unless you just had the craziest poll ever.
Yeah, unless I'm just tweaking, which could be, but
Obviously,
I'm
there's the
pretty-
Duke's Mayo Bowl. Like that's always a fun one. Yeah, dude. College football, you need to get some more food sponsors for your bowl games because it is way more enjoyable seeing the winning team get dumped with food. Or just like even the Pop-Tart Bowl last year was such a huge hit that one's never gonna leave anytime soon. I don't know how we got sidetracked and talking bowls, but yeah, figure we should probably get this one wrapped up. For Braden Bankin, I'm Dawson Livingston. Another great episode of the Sports Nerds. I don't know if there'll be one next week. Obviously, Christmas is next Wednesday. Christmas Eve's next Tuesday. Schedules right now with holidays are super complicated, but we will try. I know on Sunday or probably Monday next week, we will have an episode of Hardwood Combos up, talking about the Christmas Day games, which will be really fun, and recapping last night's NBA Cup win of the Bucks beating the Thunder. But yeah, for Braden Bankin, I am Dawson Livingston, signing out of the Sports Nerds.